All right. Now we are going to move on to hear from Neal Ullman with Montana Department of Environmental Quality. He's going to present on some of the funding opportunities at the state level there. I'm going to share. Neal, would you like me to share the presentation still?
Sure.
Okay. Let me, oh, hold on just a second. Thanks for joining us. I know you just had this yesterday too. You're probably going to be sick of saying all of this info. Hopefully you'll get some good applicants. Okay, so here is. Oh, shoot.
I can do mine if you want.
Oh, here it is. Can you guys see this now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Thank you.
Gotcha.
Thanks, Alicia, and thank you for everyone for being on this stakeholder webinar. We're doing a lot of exciting things up here in Montana. I want to talk to some of you about it, and hopefully it can also be some information that might be used in some of the other states that are on today's webinar. Last week, Montana Department of Environmental Quality released 2 funding opportunities for the clean transportation. One of them is called the Clean Truck Bus and Airport Equipment Program. The other one is our Clean School Bus Program, which we've done for a number of years now. Go to the next slide, Alicia. The Clean School Bus Program obviously focuses on new school buses. This is funded by EPA's DERA, Diesel Emissions Reduction Act program. We're in the middle, or we're at the very end now, I guess I should say, of a 2-year work plan that got extended to 3 years because of global pandemics. And so we have a bit of money left, $227,000 left for awards to replace older diesel school buses with either new, cleaner diesel buses, propane, low NOx certified, or battery electric school buses, or gasoline as well. Our application deadline for that is going to be November 15th, and all the project activities need to be completed by next August. The other one, the Clean Truck Bus and Airport Equipment, is funded by our portion of the Volkswagen settlement dollars and focuses on class 4 through 8 trucks and buses and airport ground support equipment. Because a lot of these funding projects are going to be new to Montana, especially when we're talking about electric powered trucks, buses, or airport equipment. We're giving people some extra time to pull together their application proposals. So the first round of applications will be due on January 14th. And depending on how many awards we make after that application period, we may have a second round that would be due on June 17th. Entities would have 20 months to complete project activities, and we have just under $7.4 million available for that funding opportunity. Next slide, please. So for the Clean School Bus, again, this is something that we've been doing through the DERA program for a number of years now. We're accepting applications from school districts across the state. Previously, we'd been only able to fund and focus on school districts in high air pollution counties and districts in certain parts of the state. This is statewide. Again, the eligible replacements are battery electric, low NOx certified, propane, gasoline, or new or cleaner diesel buses. Districts that contract their bus services out to private fleet management companies are eligible to apply, but the application itself needs to come from the school district. And you see the deadlines there again. Next slide, please, Alicia. So for anyone who's on this webinar who's interested in school bus replacements, there's going to be a couple of differences that you'll want to keep in mind. So pay attention to this slide and then a future slide that we'll have for the Clean Truck RFA. So for the Clean School Bus DERA funded program, we can replace old diesel buses that are from 1996 through 2019 if you're replacing it with either a new battery electric school bus or a low NOx certified bus. For battery electric, we can provide up to 45% or $148,500, whichever is lower, of the cost of the new bus. And for low NOx, we've been giving grants of awards of 31,500. For new propane, diesel, or gasoline buses, we can give up to 22,500, but the bus that's being replaced can only be model years 96 through 2009. There's a bit of a difference there, and there will be a bit of a difference from the other funding opportunity. If you are doing a battery electric school bus in this program, the grant award can pay for or help pay for the cost of the charging infrastructure associated with that bus, but the EPA does not allow for infrastructure costs for propane, gas, diesel, or whatever for anything else that's not electric. Next slide, please. So for the clean truck, bus, and airport equipment, this is really the big one we're excited about. I won't go into the background of the Volkswagen settlement. I assume that most folks are fairly aware of the details of that and its focus on reducing mobile sources of nitric oxide or NOx emissions, improve air quality. Under this funding opportunity, the maximum grant award is $500,000, dependent on certain cost share limitations that we'll get to on the next slide right now. So we've separated the eligible projects into 4 different categories. Categories A and B. Category A is for class 4 through 8 trucks. So anything over 14,000 pounds. And when we're talking about trucks, I mean, we're really talking about anything that you can think of: dump trucks, street sweepers, delivery trucks, concrete mixers, pretty much anything that you would think would be a truck. Not pickups, obviously, that we all drive around in, whatnot, is our own personal vehicles, but these are the bigger class 4 through 8s. The vehicles that could be replaced under category A, this is from the Volkswagen settlement, not from the state of Montana, could be model years 1992 through 2009. So anything older than 92 or anything newer than 2009 wouldn't be eligible for replacement, but anything in that window could. For category B, we're doing shuttle and transit buses, class 4 through 8, again, and also the same limitations on the engine model year. Now, depending on who the applicant is, whether it's a government sponsored project like a city government, county government, a city or county transit agency, or a school district, not school district, that's the next slide. There's a certain cost share percentage there. With the non-government, so if you're a private company, a fleet, there's a different cost share there. If you were to replace, for example, a garbage truck with an old diesel garbage truck with a new electric, we could pay for 85% of the cost of that garbage truck. I had a conversation this morning with somebody that was looking at one particular kind of electric truck, and they kind of had a general number of, I think it was $610,000 for the cost of the new all-electric garbage truck. So we could pay up to 85% or $500,000. Now, 85% of $610,000 is higher than $500,000. So the maximum award in that scenario would be the $500,000. But then at that point, this entity that I was talking to would only be on the hook to spend $110,000 for a brand new garbage truck. So that seems like a pretty good deal to me. If you want to do a CNG garbage truck, like we were just talking about, we could give up to 60% of the cost of that. Also, diesel replacements are eligible for both of these categories, and we could provide up to 20% of the cost of going from diesel to diesel. So again, talking about transit buses, trucks, shuttle buses, a whole array of different things here. Next slide, please. Category C is school buses. And unlike the Clean School Bus program, which I talked about at the beginning, this is replacing older diesel buses with electrics. No other fuel is eligible under this funding category. So this is by going from diesel to electric. Again, we can provide up to 85% of the cost if it's a school district that's applying. Under the Volkswagen settlement, if a school district is contracting with or for its bus services, that still qualifies as government owned. And so a school district that does contracted school bus services would be eligible for the 85% cost share. Now, the general assumption is that brand new electric school buses cost around $350,000. Now, we're not going to be able to spend or pay for the entire cost of that. We can pay up for up to 85% of that. So 85% of 350,000 is $297,500. That would be the maximum grant award under that scenario. But basically that means that the school district could get into a brand new school bus, an electric school bus at that, for about $52,500, which is, again, general rule of thumb, a new diesel bus costs anywhere between $90,000 to $110,000, depending on how many bells and whistles you get on it. So this would be allowing them to get a brand new electric bus for half the cost about of a new diesel, with none of the fuel costs or maintenance costs or anything like that that comes along with the benefits of an electric vehicle. So that's one difference. I'll get into another difference with the Clean School Bus Program in a moment, but first let's cover category D. This is airport ground support equipment and the Volkswagen settlement that defines that as any piece of equipment that services a plane in between flights. So, for example, a belt loader or a pushback tractor. Somebody asked me on a webinar that we had yesterday if a tractor that cuts the lawn around the runway would be eligible. And the answer is no, that's not directly servicing the aircraft. I understand there are safety things that go along with that that make sure that there's no problems with wildlife and things of that nature, but it doesn't directly serve the aircraft, so it wouldn't be eligible. But things like a belt loader certainly would be. This, like the school bus category, category C, is also only allowing for new replacements with electric, and that is actually a requirement of the Volkswagen settlement. Now, this is the one category where you can replace older airport ground support equipment that was gasoline powered. All the other three categories the replacement would have to be diesel powered. So you see the restrictions here, and this top paragraph is just straight copy and pasted from the Volkswagen settlement language. So that's the eligibility. Next slide, please. So in terms of talking about the benefits of moving to either alternate fuel or battery electric vehicle applications, the changes are pretty amazing, especially when you also look at the air quality things, which again is the focus of both the EPA DERA program as well as the Volkswagen settlement. If this is a school bus, and I want to make sure that people don't think this is all about school buses, because the next slide is about garbage trucks, but I've been doing so much research on school buses, this was easy to put together. Again, a diesel school bus costs it's more like 90 to 110, but 95 to $115,000. If I took the national average for the cost of diesel, and you divide that by the fuel economy, which Argonne National Labs A Fleet tool estimates to be 8.2 miles per gallon, and you come up with a fuel cost, and this is only the fuel, this isn't talking about maintenance or oil changes or anything like that, this is just the fuel. The fuel cost per mile for a diesel school bus is 39 cents. Now, when you compare that to a gasoline powered, the fuel economy on a gas or propane powered school bus is lower, it's 6.8 miles per gallon. And so it's a little bit higher fuel cost per mile. A battery electric school bus, obviously there's no miles per gallon because you don't have gallons of electricity that you're storing in a school bus, but the miles per gallon equivalent is 24 miles per gallon equivalent. And here in Montana, at least here in Helena anyway, the higher end of electricity costs is about 14 cents per kilowatt hour. So when you take 24 and divide it, or we take that and divide it by the fuel economy, it's half a cent per mile for fuel costs. Now, I do fully acknowledge that the upfront cost is significantly higher than a diesel or gasoline or propane school bus. But over the long haul, you're going to save significant money on fuel. On the air emissions side, it's night and day. Obviously, a battery electric has no tailpipe emissions, so it has no NOx pollutants. A diesel bus has almost 38 pounds of NOx pollutants annually. And that doesn't sound like a whole lot, but when you're talking about a fine particulate, there's a small amount of things that can get into your lungs and really cause some damage when you're talking about asthma and other respiratory illnesses. Diesel is significantly higher than anything else, and battery electric will save you significantly. Next slide, please, Alicia. Garbage trucks. Again, the upfront cost for a battery electric is significantly higher, about $200,000 according to Argonne. And garbage trucks get terrible fuel economy. Obviously, they're huge vehicles that are adding significant amount of weight as they keep on driving throughout the day. So again, according to Argonne, a diesel truck will get about 1.7 miles per gallon. When you take that same cost of diesel that I used on the school buses, it costs about, from the fuel side, about $1.91 per mile. A electric garbage truck gets significantly more fuel economy. It gets about 5.6 miles per gallon equivalent. Again, using 14 cents per kilowatt hour, it costs about 2.5 cents per mile to operate. Now on the CNG story that we just heard, the miles per gallon equivalent is a little bit lower, but CNG also costs less. So you are saving money on the fuel there. And again, on the air emissions, the diesel garbage truck, according to Argonne, has almost 150 pounds, so even a heck of a lot worse than that school bus. The battery electric, zero, no tailpipe. That CNG is also doing significant savings too, so that's a great improvement on air quality there. Next slide, please. So again, we have the 2 rounds of funding, the first coming up in January by 5 p.m. And we'll make award decisions within 30 days of that. And so probably it won't be until next spring-ish that we're able to make public award announcements, because we still have to enter into contracts, get the money from the Volkswagen settlement trustee and all that other bureaucratic stuff that happens. So hopefully next spring, we'll have some very exciting news. Next slide, please. So just again, a side-by-side of the 2 different funding opportunities, very exciting stuff. That's my contact information. If you're a Montana entity that's on this webinar or happens to see this later on the recording, feel free to contact me with any questions. We are currently accepting substantive questions that we'll include on our FAQ page on the DEQ website, which you see there at the bottom of the slide. We'll close that on December 13th. So happy to answer any questions, even if they're basic about like, who even makes this kind of stuff? I have plenty of manufacturers I've come across over the last 2 years that would be happy to provide bids and quotes for these types of platforms. If you're not from Montana, but just simply want to learn more about how maybe your state or a community could try and adapt some of these ideas to what you have available, I'm also happy to talk about those as well. So thank you, Alicia, for being the driver for my presentation.
No problem. Thank you so much. It was very informative. Thank you for walking us through all aspects of these funding opportunities. Well, great. Let's see. Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, I have one, Alicia, for both you and Neal. I know the whole webinar here is being recorded, but would we have access to individual slides? So some of the ones Neal showed would be very useful in trying to discuss this further with, the mayors and councilmen and so on.
Sure, I can share those.
Yeah, that'd be greatly appreciated.
Yeah.
I don't know, Alicia, is that going to be true for all the presentations or just individual ones?
I don't know. I'll reach out to all the presenters, and when we do a follow-up email, I'll include slides from those who are fine with sharing. So hopefully, usually that's the case. People are fine with that.
Great. Thanks, Neal. That was very informative.
My pleasure. I'll share a longer version with you and anyone else who asked. We had a really deep dive webinar yesterday that I had probably twice as many slides and really went into some other details on what a proposal needs to include. So I'll share that version with you.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll definitely post a link to that previous or to your webinar from yesterday on our website and include in some of our newsletters so people can have access to that too. Because we had over 50 people sign up for the stakeholder meeting today. So there'll be a fair amount of people that are interested in this information that maybe aren't here right now. So yeah. And then the Yellowstone-Teton Clean Cities, we're hoping to partner with some of our partner Clean Cities coalitions to offer a webinar on some medium and heavy duty vehicles, just because there's a lot of funding announcements lately for those types of vehicles and a lot more interest and availability. So we'll share that information as well when we have something scheduled and on the books, but hopefully within a month. So it's still relevant to this funding cycle. All right, well, any other questions?
I would flag from the previous conversation about the scrapping of the garbage truck. And that is something that we're including in here, and that kind of comes from the EPA DERA program, which we've modeled a lot of our RFAs for Volkswagen on, because the goal is to get these heavier, older diesel burning vehicles off the road sooner rather than later. And so the scrapping will be a requirement of our clean truck bus and airport equipment. And we try and make that as easy as possible. We're willing to be flexible, but we are doing that here, and happy to answer questions offline about that too.
Great. Thank you so much, Neal.